Hello lovely, this tutorial is going to show you how to work increases and decreases for the extended link double crochet stitch. I've used that in my Emily top and this is part of a mini series for that. If you don't know how to work the extended link double crochet or how to work the foundation link double crochet stitches, I will leave a link in the description and cards in the video. So let's get started. So before I work my row, I'm going to use one stitch marker for the center. So I have 29 stitches, so we're going to half that, so 14, and then the 15th stitch will be the very center. That's why I suggest an odd number, so that you've always got that extra one is going to be the center, which both sides will share of the v-neck. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, and then there's the 15th. There we go. Okay, so that's going to be where my v-neck starts. Before I work my v-neck though, I also want to, in fact, I wonder if I should take that out so I'm not confusing. No, I'll keep it in just so that you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you where to put the increases. So before we actually split off for the v-neck, we need to work increases on the bust area. As I said before, Tom Rainbow the bear is one a boy and two is a bear, so he doesn't really need to bust increase, but we're going to give it a wee tiny one just so I can show you what to do. Depending on your size with the Emily top, you might have one increase for your bust on a row, or you might have two, or you might have three. So it just depends on your size. And also you have the option in the pattern and in your own brain to extend, to increase with yourself. If for example, say you're a petite size but you have a bigger bust, then you can add an extra increase row just in the way that I'm showing you just now. Just remember to count how many stitches you've added. Okay, so I am going to, in the pattern it tells you exactly where to put these stitches, so make sure you refer to the pattern for the exact guide, but I'm just going to kind of go for the kind of middle. So where these stitch markers would be is kind of like your apex, so that's the fullest part of your cup if you were wearing a bra. So I said 14, so it's 14 there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say just a little bit further in than exactly half. I'll go for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I'll go for the 6th stitch here. Just a little bit closer. Now obviously if you're a big human size then you'll have more stitches to play with, but for this obviously I've only got a little amount. So this is the 15th stitch and I've put it 6 stitches away there, so that whatever I need to do at this side I have to do the same at the other side. Let me get another stitch marker. So not including the central stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Happy with that. Okay, so to work the increases so that you've got your cups working out the way but the rest of it staying nice, so that you've got a nice shape, is we are going to work it as normal. So my chain 2, turn the work and work my extended link double crochet. Now in the pattern what it's asking you to do here is basically you're increasing it by adding in a shell, and I'll show you how to do that with this particular stitch because you can still link them. So at the marker stitch which again in the Emily pattern, and also when you are doing, these are basically they're effectively bust darts. So in sewing you would add a bust dart in to make your clothes fit you to the contours of your body. So this is the equivalent of that as a bust dart. So that's worked at the apex, the fullest part. Okay, so I've got 2 stitches left, and then I've got my central apex stitch. So I'll work these 2. The little uniform ridges make me very happy to look at. Had a little wee mistake there, let me get that. So, okay, so I'm at the stitch marker stitch now. I'll take that out for a moment, and I remember to put it back in a little sec. So to do the increase stitch, what you're going to do is you're going to insert as normal into the central bar, then pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook, insert into the next stitch, pull up a loop, work your normal double crochet, and then same again, you're going to insert into the exact same one, pull up a loop, pull through, and I'll do one more, insert into the same stitch, pull through 1, pull through 2, pull through 2, and now I've increased it by 2 extra stitches. So when you're putting the stitch marker back in between, there's the 3 that I've added, you always replace the stitch marker into the middle of it, so the middle of the 3, so the second stitch that's been worked. That's to keep the line of your bust dart in place, so it's not all wiggly. We want it to be in a line, or a, create a nice contour. So that's how we work the increase. So I'm going to work my way across. At the central stitch, I'm not going to do anything with it yet. It's just really there for purposes of knowing something's coming. And again, because this is a very small sample project I'm working on, the increases and decreases will come much more rapidly. Usually you would have a stabilizing row, which is just a row that doesn't have any increases or decreases. Also, and some of the sizes have an increase at the edge here. So you can just do that simply by inserting two stitches here. In fact, I'll show you that in the next row, just to be very clear about it. I wouldn't put all the increases in the same row because it'll just become too warped and bumpy, misshapen. So just try and even out your increases across rows, but just make sure it's mirrored symmetrical. Right, I'm taking my central one out just now, and I will replace it. And then work across to the next one and do the exact same increase. Okay, so I've got 2 more stitches, and then I'm at my increase point again. Stitch markers kind of annoy me. I do often not use them in this way. I actually prefer using a little bit of scrap yarn. Let me show you. Let's just get a little bit of scrap yarn, a different colour to what you're using, and then I'll show you once I've finished this. Once this is my increase. So I'm gonna make the first stitch, insert my bar into the bar, sorry, pull up a loop, and into the exact same stitch, and then the third one into into the same stitch. And just remember that it's the third 3 stitches you made that's into the central one, the middle one, so like the 2 out of the 3. And what I often do is, so that I don't get annoyed with all the clattering and getting stuck at things in my way with the stitch markers, is I often just put a little thread, little opposing colour through, and you could even make it in to a stitch that is looped over, a bit like a slip knot. And then it doesn't get in your way as much when you're crocheting. So if you find that annoys you, you can give that a go. But you definitely need to keep marking your stitches, or else you'll end up with a very wonky project. So I'm going to work on my way to the end, and then I will show you how to increase the edges, which is fairly similar, but there's just one little difference that I want to talk to you about. Tom's holding my yarn for me. Thank you, Tom. Okay, when you get to here, you might be thinking, how many stitches do I have here? So remember that the chain doesn't count as a stitch. So this is the second last stitch, and then the last one, these bits are all together. So look for the top, look for the part at the top that you can really see. And if you work extra, it will be noticeable, because you'll have a little sort of bump at the end that'll look misshapen. So just check before you move on to the next row. You could even give your stitches a count. So we've increased by 2 at either apex, so that means that we've increased by 4 altogether. So there we go. So that wasn't a very good one, was it? Let me get the, there we go. And 2. Oh, this is the problem with this yarn. Yeah, so that'll do. Oh, there we go. So we had, how many do we have? 29, 30, 31, 32, 33. I should have 33 stitches altogether. Let's just double check. Remember, we don't count the chain. 1, 2, 6, 8. Yep, all present and correct. So to increase the edges, so that you've got a kind of starter for your bust, or perhaps your underarm, or whatever else you might be making, it'll sort of slightly fan out a little tiny subtle bit. We're going to chain 2 and turn, as always, yarn over, because remember, this is the first stitch that we're doing, so you can't link it. So insert and make your first extended double crochet, and then you're going to link it, but this time the link will be in the exact same stitch, and that's it. Don't increase 3 here, only increase, don't do 3 together, just do 2 together, because 3 will be pretty ugly, be too bumpy. If you really need to increase, then you could do a 2 in this one and then 2 in this one, and that will make it a little bit less lumpy looking. Okay, so I'm going to work my way across the row to the end, and that will be the bust increases, and then we'll be ready for, in fact, I might actually do the split just now. So I'll work my way across until I get to the stitch marker. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the V-neck split, and then we're going to work the decreases. Now the decreases for the Emily top are a little bit less abrupt. They're not as obvious, they're a bit more subtle. So that means that there's, on either side, there's 2 decreases separately, rather than being in the absolute middle, rather than being in the apex. They are at the sides of the apex, because we don't want to look like Madonna or Jean-Paul Gaultier corsets and stuff. So we don't want a big bullet bra kind of pointiness going on. So I'll take this stitch marker out, my little scrappy one. Okay, so this was my increase. I wouldn't do an increase and an increase on top of each other either. That would just be a little bit too much. So this is the stabilizing row. When I say stabilizing row, what I mean is smoothing it out. It's a smoothing out row where you don't put lots of details and changes and things in. It helps balance it out. Right. Okay. Oops. Almost there. Now, at this point, we are not working to the other side. At this point, we have now got 2 different sections. So when I get to the red marker, I will stop and turn, and I'm going to ignore this whole section just now. So remember, obviously you would have way more rows to work these increases and decreases and things than me, because you're using it for a human size, or maybe you're not, maybe you're doing it for a doll or a teddy, I don't know. Right, I've got one more before the stitch. Now in the center stitch, remember you should have an odd number, so in the center stitch you're going to put a stitch. But the next side, hold on, when we work this side, we will also put a stitch in that exact same place. So just to remind me that that one has to be worked, I'm going to put my stitch marker back in like that. Okay, so from now on we're just working on this part, and I am going to work my decreases. I'm going to work a decrease at each row, gets a decrease at the edge of the v-neck. If you were making a shorter stitch, like a half double crochet or something, you might not do a decrease on each row because it would decrease too quickly. But because these stitches are extra long, so they're effectively, you're doing 2 rows, 2 normal kind of traditional rows, you're doing it in one, so the stitch can decrease in each row. So I am going to work a decrease in this to make it a sort of V shape. I'm going to work it by, you guessed it, chain 2 for my work, and this is how we work a decrease for the extended length double crochet. I'm going to, because it's the first stitch, I have to yarn over, insert, I've got 3 loops in my hook, and I'll pull through one of them. That's my chain as always, but this is where it changes. I'm going to go into the second stitch, so I'm not going to do anything else with this. I'm going to use my thumb or my finger to hold onto all 3 loops. I'm going to insert into the next stitch, and I'm going to pull up a loop as well, and then I'm going to pull through one. That's my second chain created. So now I've made 2 chains and I've got 4 loops on my hook, and now I'm going to pull through 3. That's my decrease. So can you see that it looks like a little Adidas stripe? We've got 1, 2, 3 stripes, and then I'm going to pull through 2, and that's the decrease stitch. Now that's all very well and good, but you might be thinking, but then which of these lines do I go into for the next stitch? So let me show you. So if I, again, we're ignoring the chains, we're just looking at this. This is the decrease stitch here, and we've got the stitch we've created at the top. We've got a line here, a line here, and then all the kind of underneathy stuff, and then we've got the chain line at the bottom that goes into the stitch. So effectively we're looking at this and saying, right, do we want this line or this line? Okay, and So both of these horizontal bars are a choice. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the nearest to the hook. We're going to go to the top one. I'll show you what both of them will look like and you'll see why. So insert into the top horizontal diagonal helter-skelter bar and pull up a loop. Okay, and then we're just simply going to work our next stitch as normal. So create a chain, pull through two, pull through two. There you go, like that. You see the line there, and then you would just work it as normal. Okay, I just realised I took the stitch marker out, didn't I? That was a silly thing for me to do. So let me find, if your stitch marker does fall out, you can kind of find it where it goes. Remember we had the central there, so, and then a follow up there, and then of course I can just count it, but I'll just plop it in there just now. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is different. I'm going to decrease not at the stitch. Remember, this is the apex marker. We're going to decrease before the stitch and after the stitch, and not decreasing. We had 3 together in the increases, but we're only going to do 2 together in the decreases at either side, just to make it softer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify in the pattern it's 5 stitches before and then 3 after, so that you're reducing the 5th and the 4th stitch and the 5th and the 4th stitch of either side. But in this one I'm going to just go for maybe 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'll go for 4 before. Okay, so 4 before, as long as you make sure that they're both matching, it's fine. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got one more stitch to work here. There we go. Right, so this time I want to increase here. I'm going to insert into the central bar, pull up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, insert into the next stitch. This is the one I want to start the decrease. Pull through 1. That's my chain. Insert into the next stitch, pull through 1. 4 loops on my hook. Yarn over and pull through 3. Yarn over and pull through 2. That's my decrease. Now, remember earlier I said which of these lines do we go with? Can you see that there's already an automatic line forming? So that's the one, that's why. Okay, so that's the one that we go for, because that's the one that's actually joining. The underneath one belongs to the second stitch, which you've basically reduced. You've got rid of that one, worked it together, so that the first one is the one that we want to keep, like that. Let me show you what happens if you use the second one. And you see, it breaks the line. So, top one. And then work across. So I've decreased this one by 1, and I'm going to do the same at the other side. Now, I'm not going to count 4 along from that stitch, because that would mean I would be decreasing too far away, because remember it's the closest stitch and the next door stitch that you're decreasing. So take that one out. Remind me to put it back in this time. So I'm going to decrease these 2. So I'm going to go insert into the central bar, pull up a loop, 2 on my hook, insert to the stitch, pull through 1, pull through 2. Oh, I'm getting carried away with myself, sorry. Insert into the central bar, pull up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, insert into the stitch, the first stitch I want to reduce, pull through 1, 3 loops on my hook, that's my chain made. Do the same to the second stitch, that's my second chain made. 4 loops on my hook, pull through 3 of them, that's the first half of the double crochet made. Pull through 2 of them, that's the second half. There's my decrease. And if we look at the lines, one of them wants to stay together and one of them is quite happy being on its own. And then we get to the end. Oops. And remember I did an increase here, so there it's there. So I'm going to finish it off into the top. There we go. Right, now at this point in your top you'll have loads and loads of rows before you get to this point, but because we're doing a terry, I'm going to start showing you how to make the grown on sleeve, the kimono type sleeve, integrated sleeve, whatever we're calling it. I'm going to skip through this part because this is where I work the Emily top sleeve extension rows, and there's a separate video for that. So hopefully you found this video helpful to show you how to work the increases and decreases of the extended length double crochet stitch. Leave me a comment and let me know how you get on, or if you've got any other questions or comments or things that you want me to cover in more detail. I'd love to hear from you. And then you would simply work back and forward, always doing your decreases whenever it tells you to on the pattern. If you've got a larger bust or you're a larger size, then you will have to do a couple of decreases like we did on either side of the apex. If you're following along with the Emily pattern, I would recommend keeping the stitch markers in all the way up to the top, even when you've finished the final decrease. And the reason for that is they basically act as a guide to where your neck to your shoulder is. Let me use Tom. So there's the neck, and then human shoulders have like a little sort of straighter part, and then they have the slope of their shoulder, so it's like two different angles here. And when we are making our neckline, our v-neck neckline, we don't want to add extra height onto the neck part, because then we've got a gapey front and it's too long. But we do want to add extra height onto the shoulder part to give it movement and to give it drape, because that's part of the design on the top. So that's the stitch marker kind of goes from the apex up, and it naturally indicates where the neck base is. Anyway, hope this helps. Hopefully you give it a go. Let me know how you get on. Check out the pattern, check out all of the socials and everything. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any updates or any more tutorial videos. And I would really love to hear from you. Anyway, from Tom and I, bye lovely.